Howdy folks, you're listening to the Eiffel Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G, and if you've been even remotely keeping an eye on my social media lately, you'll notice something big has changed, and that is my address temporarily. What am I talking about? Why, a great thing happened about a week ago. Leah Walker, who runs the social media for an apartment company called Paris Perfect Rentals if you're on Instagram, and she said, well, I love what you've been doing online during confinement with your wife in your tiny little apartment, and I wondered if you'd like to come and stay in one of our luxury apartments on the left bank. And I said, what's the catch? She said, there's no catch, but they're sitting empty and we'd like to see what you can do on the left bank. And I said, well, that sounds too good to be true. I'm on my way. And that's exactly what's happened. So we've been spending the past week and indeed the next week in their Bergerac apartment in the 7th arrondissement, where honestly, we're about 25 seconds walk from the base of the Eiffel Tower. I've got a lot to say about this. It's been extremely inspiring. So keep your ears peeled for that. But today I've got Leah. So Leah Walker, you might know her from, she was on the show about a year ago talking about, it was kind of an episode about the opposite of being on a budget in Paris. It was like the places to go if you're ready to spend, luxury shops, hotels, and apartments. And obviously, as I said, she works as the social media for Paris Perfect Rentals. She's Leah Travels. You'll see she's been featuring a few videos of us in recent days too. So yeah, you've met her before. That's a Texan accent, if you're into accents like I am. And she talks about the 7th arrondissement, what it's like under lockdown, what it's usually like. She talks about how apartment rental companies like Paris Perfect are, how they've been hit, of course, by the pandemic that's going on. And she talks about how they're going to come out of it on the other side. So if you feel like a bit of daydreaming, search for the Bergerac apartment on their website. It's linked in the show notes, and I've also put all the street names. We talk a lot about street names. I realize sometimes they're hard to follow along with, but just scroll down and you'll see all of them and you can look them up for yourself. So that's it. Leah from Paris Perfect, and we were talking inside the apartment. I left the windows open. You'll be able to hear a little bit of street noise. Hopefully you'll feel like you're in Paris with us, and I'll be back at the end to talk about a little bit of exciting news on my part, including my book, Paris on Air, now on sale in one of the most fantastic bookshops in all of Europe. I think you know what I'm talking about. I'll talk to you again at the end. Here comes Leah. Let's get into it. Leah Walker, how are you?
Good. I'm very good.
Yeah. Did I pronounce your name wrong or something there?
No.
No, you looked at me like I got your name wrong, I felt. Leah, this is not your first time on the show.
No, we talked about luxury about a year ago.
I know. And funny now that we're both sitting in a luxury apartment with views of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
How things change. We were in a little studio a year ago.
I know. I came up to your side of the river, and now you've come over to my side of the river.
I know, and that's going to be a large topic that we're going to talk about today. But when you say your side of the river, you've lived a little bit all over the place, haven't you?
Well, yeah. But the last, 4 years, I've been on Rive Gauche in Saint-Germain-des-Prés in the 7th. I did live briefly in Montmartre.
Where did you live?
Avenue Junot.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That was the mayor of Montmartre said that was his favorite street, I think.
It's a lot of people's favorite street. Yeah. And
paint a picture. It's like
it's curvy, and it's actually been an artist has depicted it. It's a famous.
Is it?
Yeah, you'll have to Google it.
I'll have to fact check you.
Please do. But I was told that
it's super charming. It feels like it could be. It's kind of feels like it could be anywhere in the world, which I always find weird. That a lot of the things I like in Paris, I say to people when I show it, I'm like, "You don't even know you're in Paris," and I think, why is that so good? Wouldn't you want to be like, you know, you're in Paris?
Well, it's the best day. I remember they were filming a movie or a TV show or something, so all the cars were off the street.
Excellent.
And just the curve, it was just, and it was a fall day, so all the trees had, and it was blanketed in yellow. It was gorgeous. I loved living up there briefly, but it was a trek to get anywhere. And then I lived on Rue de Monceau in the 8th, right by Parc Monceau.
Oh, you've got a good list of addresses.
Yeah, Rue Jacob in the 6th.
That's one of the ones that goes like straight up from the river, right?
It's Bonaparte and Seine cross it, and as soon as you cross Rue Saint-Père, it turns into the 7th and Rue de la Université.
Right.
So,
and that Rue Jacob, or however it's... I know it's not Jacob, but it's...
Jacob.
Yeah. There's one of those famous little shops I remember Lina was talking about where they sell the macarons on the corner.
Oh, Ladurée. Yeah, it's right at Bonaparte and Rue Bonaparte and Rue Jacob.
Yeah, right.
But on that street is where the Treaty of Paris was signed, or giving America its independence from England.
Interesting.
Yeah, on that street. And Wagner, the
composer?
Wagner lived there, and Ernest Hemingway stayed in a hotel when he first moved to Paris on that street.
Right.
So it's full of... and if you start at Rue de Seine and go down Rue Jacob to Rue de la Université, we end right at the Eiffel Tower.
Sure, because that one's just right. University's right behind us.
Yeah.
In fact, I walked down on the big walk I did across Paris the other day. But I see what you've done. You've brought me from Montmartre into safer territory for you. Very nicely played. But that's what we're going to talk about today is the 7th. So I'm in the 7th for the week. You're a local around here.
Yeah.
And I really hoped that you could talk me through the things worth seeing kind of in this deconfinement period, but in general. But also we could trade stories about what we think about the place. Because it's very different to Montmartre.
Yeah.
Super different.
Well, the one thing that they have in common is they feel like a village. It's people, even though you have the Eiffel Tower right here, it really, right now there's no tourists.
It's crazy right now.
There's no tourists, but it's a neighborhood, and it has more, in this quartier, there are more boulangeries and patisseries per capita than anywhere else in Paris. And so where you have boulangeries and patisseries, you have actual French people.
Yeah.
So it's you see kids and families and old people, and so it's not just tourists and expats. I like to call it Little America, because you have the American Library right here. You have
that's on Montessori, or however you pronounce it, right there. Yeah.
The American Library, the American University in Paris. You have the American Church. What else?
Where's the American Church here?
It's facing the Seine.
Do you know, once I went there to meet with some people working there, long story, but the priest, I don't know if it's the same guy, is a basketball player, tall guy, and he showed me they have a private basketball court in there.
Do they?
Yeah, and it's my dream. It was my dream to play one-on-one against the priest. He's young. He's like 30 years old.
Well, it's not a priest because it's a Protestant
pastor.
church. It's a pastor.
It's a pastor.
Or a minister.
I like the word priest, though, but it is a pastor, and I wanted to play one-on-one against him, throw up some Hail Marys, if you know what I mean. Too soon for those jokes. All right.
Well, that church has a lot of history, because the first troop of the Boy Scouts in France was founded at that church. Famous people like I believe Martin Luther King has stood at that pulpit. It's got tons and tons of history.
That's part of your thing on Instagram, is sort of deep dives into the history of the area. Kind of like walk shows as well. You do a lot of walking and talking. So for people who don't know, Leah Travels is the easiest way to find your stories, as well as Paris Perfect, of course. Paris Perfect Rentals, that is. But let's talk about the other things to see in the 7th.
Okay.
I want you to... First I'll tell you what I think. I think the roads are so big. I can't believe how... Avenue Rap, right there, to my left, about 50 meters away, is one way. It's big enough for probably 3 or 4 cars to drive at the same time, while having cars parked on the side, while having extra roads next to it, where I guess the residents use, and that's just one street. I can't fathom that.
Well, you can thank Baron Haussmann for that.
Yeah, I thank him for a lot, actually. But in Montmartre, by comparison, my own street is one way, and I think I could jump across it without touching the road. It's so small. It's a different planet.
Yeah.
Do you like it down here?
No, I love it. I moved here by accident, sort of. I was in the 6th. I was very happy in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. But the owner of my apartment was selling, and a friend of mine's mother had an apartment here, and I said, yeah, the 7th's not bad. So I moved over here, and I will never live anywhere else in Paris. This is my home. This is where I feel best.
So what do you like about it?
Well, obviously, I think it's the most beautiful part, but also that the beauty, of course, the buildings are incredible, the Haussmann buildings, and the wide boulevards and the trees, and of course the Eiffel Tower isn't so bad either.
Have I said already that we're sitting essentially in the shadow of it? Have I mentioned this?
I don't think you have.
It feels like, if anyone, by the way, I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the show, at least not much. I do this pub quiz every Saturday, and on the Saturday one we did it with the backdrop, and there's rumours, Leah, that you're going to be involved in the next one with the even more spectacular view. These are the rumours, but it was so close that people were commenting that it looked like one of those Zoom backdrops, like a fake one, because it feels like you could reach off the balcony and touch it. Like it's sick. It's amazing.
That's one of the best part of my work is going in these apartments and seeing what's behind the big doors, and you never know what's going to happen when you open the door to an apartment, and the views, you just, wow. Even just, and not just the Eiffel Tower, the views across the street of the other buildings. Yeah. You know, when you go up to the 5th floor, the 6th floor, you notice things that you don't see walking along the avenues, and it just gives you a different perspective. But what I was saying before we got on air is that even though this is a heavily, anybody that's a tourist or a traveler comes to Paris, they come to the Eiffel Tower, they come to the Champ Mars, but it's also a very village-like atmosphere, and you have, Parisians, and they're a different type of Parisians than you find in, the Marais or whatever, but I feel like I can get anything that I want in this area because it is somewhat of a large area. It runs from the Seine all the way to like Bon Marché.
Right. So
you have the Rodin Museum. You
Love
have
the Rodin Museum.
Museum d'Orsay. You have Assemblée Nationale, which I don't know if you know this, but you can tour.
I've never toured it.
Saturdays, I believe.
Really?
You can tour. You can take a tour.
So what's in there?
I haven't been. We should go.
We're going to do that. Yeah, we'll bring a camera.
It's probably not open now, but...
Yeah, well, we'll still be here.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what one thing that you didn't mention that I love is being up on the 6th floor that we are now, even though I live on the top floor, because the streets are so big, they're tree-lined. So we see the top, like, looking out that window right now, I see the sun hitting those big green leaves, I should say, on the top of the trees. That's something I've never seen in Paris. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. It feels like a sea of green, and then that huge blue sky in the Eiffel Tower. It's like a whole different perspective on the city. You never look up to the Eiffel Tower from a balcony,
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't. I've seen your view.
I look down on it.
Yeah.
Because we're so far above it in Montmartre. It's a whole different perspective. It's a whole new world. That's what Jasmine would say in Aladdin. But we're not here to talk about Disney movies. Let's talk about, before we keep going about the good things, I have to ask, there must be negatives living here.
Well, it is quite expensive.
Yeah.
I see that you got the shock of mango buying on Rue Claire.
€10.43.
What?
Yeah. I'm serious.
For a mango?
We got a mango and we got like blueberries and I don't know, like an avocado. And it was €15. And in my head, usually, like, when you get small things, you don't think so much about. But I was like, could they really have been €5 each for those small things? And I looked at it, and I said to the woman, €10 for a mango? And she said, yeah. I said, I bet it's good. And she's like, oh, it's really good. I didn't know if it was a €10 mango, but that was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it takes a little, there's some sticker shock, for sure. The rents, but there's some reasonable things because... this is a Parisian neighborhood, a real neighborhood. Although it is affluent, it does keep the prices down for like restaurants. We have some really great restaurants, and the 7th isn't seen as like some cool hip place. Partially because the rents are high. You don't have young chefs or young people opening up these cool cafes or anything like that, but it does keep the prices down as far as, okay, on Rue Claire, maybe not so much. Some of the other places, but I guess once you get used to it, it doesn't shock you so much, and then you learn to not go to that particular.
You stop eating mangoes. Yeah.
Well, or you get it at the grocery store where it's
of course,
€4.
Well, see, here's the thing: is that I'm living like a tourist at the moment,
Yeah.
so we're making mistakes that tourists make, or I'm exploring in a similar way. Like I've found really cool. I mean, I went to Khartoum, which I love anyway. Friends of the show. But also, I think, is it Blue Olive?
Blue Olive is
you
great.
recommended that to me, and so did some people on
It's
Instagram.
great.
Wonderful, really friendly and cheap. Like, I mean, it's Paris prices, but it wasn't mango prices,
Right.
Yeah. And also, being a tourist, walking around, I'm so hesitant to say it, but I think a lot of people in Paris don't realize that there are parks open by the Eiffel Tower that you can sit and lounge around in the grass because they're empty.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Well, the Champ Mars, they've reopened it, correct?
Well, I mean, so people at home who don't know what Champ de Mars is, it's the big, huge grassy space in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower where people gather to watch the football or music concerts sometimes. But it's fenced off the big grassy bit in the middle, but the side parks, the ones that are kind of curved, and there's a lot of them, I don't think they could fence them off.
They blocked off the entrance, but the fenced-in part that's right now, they usually do that in the winter because they want to let the grass regenerate. So they just haven't got around to taking that away and mowing the grass.
Isn't it weird to see such like beautiful, opulent places in Paris like that overgrown? Because the grass is like a foot high.
I haven't walked over
You've
there.
not been down that bit yet?
I haven't walked over there since, I was in London for 50 days of confinement.
Oh my goodness.
So
I've
only been back about 2 or 3 weeks.
Well,
so
we know what we're doing after this. But so down there and at Invalides and stuff, the grass is honestly, I'm doing it with my hands here, but it's about a foot high.
Yeah.
Nearing a meter in some places. So it's kind of crazy to see the changes on the city that the lockdown has brought. But back to the positive stuff. What?
Well, one thing, there for the 2024 Olympics, they have a huge plan. You can go online and find some renderings of it from the Trocadero all the way back to École Militaire along the Champ de Mars. They've got an incredible plan, a green space, because right now it's not looking its best even before the lockdown. And I think that they're like, we're not going to put any money into it because we've got this huge plan.
Is this for like the beach volleyball and fencing and stuff like that, or is that more they were going to make it green?
They're just going to they're going to spruce it up. I mean, it's probably the most visited area of the city, and it just hasn't been up to snuff. So they've got this big plan in place, but I think they're doing the beach volleyball there.
What are you talking? This renderings that you're talking about, is that? I feel like I saw something they're going to put grass on the bridge and make it like pedestrianized, or am I?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, this could have been a dream. It could well have been one of my Paris dreams. But what else do you like about living here, and where should I visit?
Oh, during lockdown?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm going to put this episode out soon after we record it, so we're kind of in a historic time for Paris now. Half of it's shut.
Well, for me, I just wander the streets. I often just walk and pick different streets and because I love to look at the architecture and notice new things. And if I find a building that intrigues me, I Google it and find out a little bit more about it. Which came in handy when we could only go 1 kilometer from our house.
Yeah.
I mean, my 1 kilometer was pretty nice.
Yeah.
I had the Eiffel Tower, I had Pont Alexander, I had Invalides, I had, I had a really nice 1 kilometer.
You had a good one, yeah.
Yeah. But this quartier that we're specifically in is Gros-Caillou, which means big pebble.
Big pebble, right.
And
why? What?
Well, there used to be a big pebble.
Well, how big is a big pebble? Like the size of a fist?
No, it was like a giant boulder.
Right.
I mean, the French thing.
Yeah.
But it was like a big boulder, and that's what this quartier was named after. So it runs from the Champ de Mars to the Seine to École Militaire to Invalides.
So just to pause you for a sec, there's when Leah talks about quartier, or I guess quarter or neighbourhood, and I think I mentioned this on the show before, but there's 20 districts in Paris, and a lot of French people don't know this, but each of those districts are divided into 4 quarters, right? So I think if you stopped a typical Parisian on the street and said, what quarter do you live in, they wouldn't know the name of it. I don't know which one I live in, but that's what you're talking about when you say neighbourhood is one of these. So the big pebble.
Yeah, and I look at a lot of real estate. So
sure. Do they mention that on the real estate things?
Yeah. Well, if it's a good quartier.
Yeah.
If it's not so desirable, they'll say, oh, the 8th.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, which part of the 8th? Is it the Golden Triangle?
And I know that. But that's not what it's called, though.
No, in French it's something d'or, whatever triangle.
Triangle d'or,
yeah,
maybe?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
So, yeah. So
your French is better than mine.
Maybe.
No, it is.
Okay, so what can we find in this? Maybe you can give us a little... And I'm being a bit selfish here because I want to know for myself.
Yeah.
What is there to find in this big pebble?
Well, you have tons of Art Nouveau buildings, and I've seen that you've noticed the most famous one on Avenue Rap.
Mm-hmm. That's the big. That's amazing. That one.
Do you know the story behind this?
I think I know that it was controversial for phallic imagery or something like that.
Well, it was controversial because the bourgeois did not like this Art Nouveau, and the door, which is the phallic thing you're talking about, he added that for like a big FU.
Oh, what, to the people in the 7th? Really?
Yeah. He was like, you're not going to tell me how to build my building.
That's so funny.
And so he built the door.
Yeah.
The door was in response to all the outcry over his building.
Because the building is pretty outrageous and it's very different to a lot of the other buildings in the neighborhood. Like it's I don't agree, but I could see why people would think it's an eyesore among the other ones. There's another one, I went a little bit further, there's a post office and you can turn left, and there's another really similar building.
That's on Rue Saint Dominique.
Right, so it's crunched into the corner, and I think they're really intriguing to look at. But I think people listening to us now and trying to picture a phallic door, I don't think it would jump out at you as being a phallic door. In fact, someone commented on my Instagram picture and they said, oh, I see a face in that door. And I responded, I think a lot of people see something a bit ruder than that. Yeah. But guys at home, don't picture it as being...
You have to turn it upside down.
Yeah. I'll put a picture of it on Instagram as well.
But the Art Nouveau, I mean, and the same architect did another building on Rue de Grenelle towards Invalides, and he also did just around here the Italian Leonardo da Vinci School.
Oh wow! I didn't see that.
I'll give you the address.
I think it's La Virotte or something like that.
Yeah, and but it's an Italian school. It's owned by the Italian government, and he did that one as well. But Art Nouveau was short-lived because then it gave way to Art Deco. But the 7th has a lot of the Art Nouveau. So if you love Art Nouveau, this would be a place for you to come check out the buildings. Obviously, Haussmannian buildings, which I love.
I love it too, and I think that you can point the camera, especially upwards, to the top of any building, especially when the sky's blue, and get a really nice shot, which is something I plan to be doing a lot more of in the coming days. But before we go on to apartments, is there any sort of secret spot around here that you can reveal? Because I've found one. We can trade. I think you already know mine, but that Île aux Cygnes, the man-made island that goes to the Statue of Liberty, that's been on my bucket list for 5 years to walk on, and I didn't think it would be that good because it's just a little thin island, but it is spectacular.
But that's technically the 16th.
That's all right. We can jump out to the 16th. It's close enough.
Okay.
It took me 10 minutes to walk there. Maybe you could give me a street.
Okay, so in the 7th, I love Rue Saint Dominique, because it runs from right on the edge of the Champ de Mars. It hits Avenue de la Bourdonnais.
Which is where we are.
It ends there. But then going the other way, it runs all the way to Boulevard Saint-Germain. So it runs behind Assemblée Nationale. It has it's a beautiful walk. It crosses Rue de Bac, which is a great food street, shopping street. But particularly from Invalides to, or specifically Boulevard La Tour Maubourg to Avenue de la Bourdonnais, it is a great shopping street. And this is probably the place, if you follow a bunch of Paris Instagrammers, the view from the cafe looking down the street with the amazing view of the Eiffel Tower,
Yes.
that's Rue Saint Dominique.
Yeah.
And if you have a sweet tooth and you're watching your weight, don't go down that street.
Why?
Because it's full of chocolate shops, patisseries, boulangeries.
All right.
It is so good. Like specialty food shops. I mean, it is an amazing place to shop.
I'm on my way.
It's not cheap.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Bring
not.
your checkbook.
Okay. I wonder though, like I imagine you and I probably both follow a lot of Instagram accounts of people sharing Paris stuff. But sometimes I wonder people at home in listener land maybe are only following me or you. So maybe when they see things like that, it's quite new.
Yeah,
I never know. If someone loves Paris, do they follow all the accounts, or is that just me and you because we work with it?
I don't know. And I think it's... I love that you have come over to this side of the river, because you mentioning things or us walking or whatever, talking, you bring attention back to things that maybe I haven't noticed.
Sure, yeah.
Or
I see it
I've
with fresh
forgotten,
eyes, yeah.
or I've taken for granted.
Yeah.
Because I see it every day.
Sure. Well, it's going to keep happening, and that's a nice segue, because thank you for letting us come down here and explore. What was the logic behind how did this happen?
Well, honestly, I had seen you and Lina. You put out such great content during quarantine, and you did it all in 30 square meters.
Yeah.
And I thought, let's see what they can do in the 7th. Right now we have a bunch of apartments that unfortunately don't have guests. And I thought, you know what? I really like them. They are good people. So I talked to the founders of Paris Perfect, and I said, how about we have them come on over and see what they can do in the 7th?
Right.
And they said, absolutely.
Oh,
bring them over.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool. And what, you guys think we're going to bring new light onto this district, or?
Maybe bring a younger twist, fresh eyes.
Yeah.
An artist. I'd love to see Lina's drawings of this vantage point.
Oh my God, I'm a fan of hers.
You're biased, but
Yeah,
I'm not. I'm not so biased.
But let's talk a little bit about it. Also, the thing that you said, unfortunately, there is that all of the apartments are empty, which is, I think, something that everyone dealing with, rentals and stuff is going through. That must have been, it's 100% hard hit on you guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it cancellations everywhere?
Yeah. The with the borders closing, both, in France to non-EU residents and citizens, people just can't come. And I believe that the French government has put a kibosh on short-term rentals. Hotels are closed,
Right.
So that's not even an option right now. So we're taking that time because our apartments are always booked. So we never have time to go in and refresh and deep clean and do all the things that you do when they're empty, because they're never empty.
Sure. So does that mean all the apartments are going to change? Or, I know your social media, but does that, is this the plan to make differences everywhere, or just to rethink things? Or?
Well, as far as just deep cleaning, there's things like touching up the paint and things like that, but
I never thought about, because you can't go and repaint the walls without losing weeks of
or a couple of days at least.
I paint slowly.
Well, we have good people to whip that out faster than that. But right. No, even just replacing furniture, updating things, fixtures, things like that periodically need to be done. Just like if you're a homeowner, you do that at your home. So of course we're going to do that. But on a deeper level, it is changing a little bit in that our cleaning standards have always been top of the line because we have our own housekeeping staff. So we're sort of the best of both worlds in that we're an apartment. So like Airbnb, you have apartments, but with Airbnb, there's hundreds of thousands of owners, and they run their own little small business.
You never know what you're going to get for
right,
real.
Exactly. And then hotels, which have their own housekeeping staff, their own laundry, but they have a lot more turnover. So we're somewhere in the middle in that we have our own housekeeping staff, we have our own laundry, but we're an apartment. And you know what you're going to get because all of our apartments are managed by us. And with our housekeeping staff, we've always had top-of-the-line standards. Our housekeepers have always worn gloves and masks when they clean. We have upgraded our cleaning products, which to the more recommended by the government. We're also instilling a 24-hour block between turnover guests. So when somebody checks in or checks out, you have to wait a full 24 hours before the next guest checks in. We're also putting hand sanitizer in all the apartments. Our laundry is industrial, so we have top-of-the-line washers, dryers, steamers for all our custom linens. So the face of travel is going to change. You'll be able to see that in everything, life in general. But, if you watch the airlines, some of the things that they're implementing.
But what about, are you guys taking bookings? Or do you not know when people can start traveling again?
Well, the government has regulated about taking bookings, I believe.
Yeah.
Currently, we can't welcome guests, so people aren't necessarily booking. There are people that are rebooking that had to cancel. They're postponing until maybe next year, or maybe they're postponing until the fall.
Yeah.
Hopeful that the borders will open. But we won't know anything until.
Sure. No one really. We just got to keep watching what the guidelines are that are set for us, I suppose.
But I don't know about you. I did an Instagram poll, and just the feedback through social media is that I did a 5-question poll about have you been to Paris? When was the last time you've been to Paris? When the borders open, how soon will it be before you come back to Paris? And the great news is that thousands of people are ready to come back to Paris as soon as they're able to, which is a testament to the city.
For sure. I think that'll be really interesting. I'm really interested to see how that goes for places like these apartments, but restaurants, cafes, tour guides, all the kind of people I usually have on the show, to see whether there's like an influx of extra people or whether it'll be gradual. But I think you're right. I'm sure there are just so many people ready to get here.
I think that I kind of think that there's a couple of different types of people. There's people that are like, you only live once, I'm not putting off tomorrow, you never know what's going to happen, let's do whatever it is in their head. Then there's the people that are more like, cautious. Oh, I don't know. I think I should just wait. And I think that there's just not really much middle ground. There's people that are just like itching to do, and then there's others that are a little more cautious.
Yeah.
At least from the 2 months of direct messages that I've gotten.
I got a lot of messages from people too, and I think there's a definite consensus that people are ready to come to Paris, and that's good news for us all. But you and I are running out of time. So in winding things up a little bit, I've been getting questions from people who've seen the pictures of the view that I've posted, and they're like, I never considered staying in a setup like this. Maybe you can tell me why it's the best, in your opinion, of both worlds when it comes to hotels and Airbnbs.
Well, you don't get that view very often, and you certainly don't get that space, the space that you have.
But if I haven't said it, it's got to be 3 times the size of my apartment. Lina and I get lost looking for each other.
Oh, it's 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
3 bedrooms, 2 baths, I think.
Yeah, with a bathtub. A bathtub.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry,
a
I said it in Texas.
But the thing about Paris Perfect as well is we have our own office, we have our own greeters, everything is, you know, like if you stay at a Marriott, you know what you're going to get, whether you're in Singapore or Los Angeles. It's a Marriott, right? That's one of the benefits of staying with Paris Perfect is because it's Paris Perfect, you know what you're going to get. And once you've stayed with us, you realize that. I mean, we try to keep things as even keel as possible, so you know exactly what you're getting, and if that's what you like, you're going to love it. I mean, you're going to love this apartment or that apartment. But some people just say, I want to have the same apartment every single time. And then others are like, oh, I want to stay in this one. And then I want to stay in that one. They're like collectors.
Like a mixed, yeah.
Yeah, they're like collectors. I've stayed in that one. And it's so funny when I feature apartments on social media, people will send me their photos. Of their kid in that apartment or whatever. So
that's cool. Well, I can recommend people, having tried it for a few days now, I can recommend this one. It's the Bergerac. I'll link to it below, and I'll also link all the streets that we talked about.
Yeah.
Because the pronunciation, I know it's hard at home to know what we're talking about sometimes. Not to mention we both have accents. But I'll put it all in the show notes so that you guys can find your way around the 7th. But Leah, thank you not just for being on the show, but for your generosity to me and Lina. And I look forward to the pub quiz.
Yes, I'm excited.
You're going to write some questions?
Yeah, I think I will.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's something for you guys to look forward to too. I'll see you all on Saturday night, 8 p.m. Paris time. You guys can, if you're not already following Leah, you'll be able to put a face to the name. But thanks again for having me.
Thanks. Second time. I'm looking forward to the next.
Yeah, I look forward to next time. Well, there you have it. Leah Walker. We talked a little bit longer than the usual 25-30 minutes, so I'll keep it short now. Like I said, Bergerac apartment, Paris Perfect. Follow them on Instagram, Paris Perfect Rentals. We'll be doing a live video with them on the weekend right before the pub quiz at 8 p.m. from a different balcony. That should be pretty fantastic to look at. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. But what I was talking about at the start of the episode is Shakespeare & Company, of course. They've just started stocking my book. More information on Monday, where the podcast guest is Adam, who runs all the book talks in there. I went and sat with him upstairs in the Shakespeare & Company, talking about that beautiful bookshop, its history, and how they're coping during the pandemic as well. Interesting chat. The most exciting thing about it, from my perspective, is that they're stocking my books now. You can get them. I'm not sure you can get them online yet, but they're going to be there soon. But you can walk into that bookshop, pick up a copy of my Paris on Air memoir, get it stamped, that famous stamp from them, and walk out to the River Seine and the Notre Dame. What a dream. What a dream I'm living. Thank you to you all for being part of it. I'll be back on Monday with that episode, Saturday with the pub quiz, and of course you can get a book for yourself on theeiffeltower.com/memoir, or if you're in the US, theeiffeltower.com/US, where it'll be a little bit cheaper, because of course it's cheaper to post within the States, and we're shipping them from Seattle. So that'll do for now. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a lovely weekend, and merci beaucoup for listening. Au revoir.